Welcome everybody, Shir number 916. We're learning today Lili Nishmas Moshe Dov ben Rabban Zisel, Lili Nishmas Blima Bas Rab Moshe. Getting back to our malacha of MAKEH B'PATISH. Okay, so we sort of went through a good chunk of the cases anyways, which come up in reference to MAKEH B'PATISH. Along the way, we're still not done. We want to go through we want to start to work on the rabbinical restrictions. We want to call it, as we spoke about a few shiurim ago, there's various different gezeres midrabanan, certain things that can be done, because there was a chashash, one might be over MAKEH B'PATISH or tikkun mana, or possibly boina. Okay, so along the way, as we go, Be'ezras Hashem, we still will be coming up with some more cases in the regular MAKEH B'PATISH, possibly even Minat Torah, so we'll try and get to those as we go. But I want to just start on the gezeras, the decrees midrabanan. Okay, so the first one I want to work on, which is a very popular one, and that is the issur of playing music on Shabbos, which says stam music. What exactly do we call playing music on Shabbos? Whistling or clapping the hands? Could I play drums? Could I play keyboard? I mean, what's the problem over here? So, of course, it goes without saying, any musical instrument that goes with electricity, that's not even the issue, like a keyboard and these type of things. Obviously, that's not even what we're talking about. All electricity is usher, all these things is not allowed to be done on Shabbos. But the Mechaber in Siman Shin Lamed Ches, our Siman is going to be Shin Lamed Ches, actually, where he goes through the various different ins and outs of it. And the Mechaber says straight out, Ashmo is Kol Beklei Shir Aser. Somebody plays some sort of a musical instrument. They make music, right? They start to make music with some sort of a musical instrument, and we're going to see what about making sounds in general. Could I make like a certain type of a sound where it's not a musical tune or melody, these type of things. So we'll talk about that. But right now we want to talk about somebody takes a musical instrument and they start to play music. What's the problem? I'll play drums. Drums is not, I've mentioned in the past, I myself, I used to be a drummer. Drums in general, you don't have electric. I mean, there are certain times you do have electric or certain things, but in general, the old-fashioned drums anyways, it's just plain banging. You take two sticks and you bang a beat, right? And you start to play a beat and that's it. There's no real melody. It's just a beat this way, that way. So what's the problem with that? So explains to us the Mishabura and the Naisei Kelim and so on. They explain to us that the problem over here is why Chazal said one cannot play music on Shabbos, even though there's no real other isurim involved, like electric and so on, is that we're afraid somebody might come to fix that musical instrument. Just to read from the Sefer Shabbos Home, on page 531, how he brings it down so beautiful. As usual, it's forbidden by rabbinical law. What is not allowed to do is asur midrabanan for a person to play any sort of musical instrument on Shabbos, whether electric, not electric. That's not the issue. Even drums or whatever. He goes further to say this is because the musical instruments often need to be adjusted and mended. They have to be tuned, the strings have to be tightened, there's various different type of things that have to be done. Sometimes a part of it breaks, right? So all these, when one fixes something on Shabbos, as we've been learning until now, in any sort of a way, they strengthen it, whatever the case is. These are all run under the isurim of boina, building, possibly sometimes, and moreover that we've been talking about, MAKEH B'PATISH and the told of MAKEH B'PATISH, which is tikkun mana. So you have these three problems. It's more when we talk about musical instruments, it's a little bit more on the MAKEH B'PATISH tikkun mana side, whereby the gezerah was made. But be it as it may, Chazal said we don't play musical instruments on Shabbos because as a gezerah, one might come to fix them in any sort of way on Shabbos. They might come to fix these musical instruments. Now, the Reb Simcha ben Imkon brings down in his Sefer Shabbos Home further, in conjunction with the Ramah, the Mishabura. We're not going to get into all the details right now, just to start off the subject that Lemaisa, going further, the Isser encompasses This way of playing music encompasses not only musical instruments, right? It does a bedafka drum or something like that, but any utensil whose purpose is to create sound. If you have a utensil that the purpose of that utensil is to create sound, for example, one is not allowed to create sound on Shabbos, let's say by ringing bells. You have various different type of ringing bells. Again, nothing to do with electric. It just makes noise. These type of things is not allowed to be used on Shabbos. We're going to see how it works. Possibly, sometimes you have a question of a rattle for a baby or something, but we'll see. We have to get into. Let's first try and establish what the halacha is actually. So Lamaisa number one. So anything that's in general creating sounds on Shabbos, using these type of instruments like ringing bells, blowing whistles. Now we're going to talk about whistling with one's mouth a little bit different. But let's say you take a whistle, you're blowing a whistle. That's not allowed to be used. Since these utensils are made for the purpose of their mamish sound-making instruments, one has to be careful not to use them on Shabbos. Okay, so now one last thing brings down the Sefer Lamites Malachas, again in conjunction with the Mishnah Berurah over there in Sifkat and Aleph, where he talks about these inyanim. He talks about clapping there, but I want to talk about that a little bit separately. But one thing is for sure, he brings down one may not produce musical or rhythmatic sounds from any object. Even if it's not designed for producing sounds. So I'll make right. So when the item is made to make sounds like whistles, bells, these type of things, we understand that's also usher. But not just that, but to make a sound, to make a musical sound, from an item that's not made for that is also not allowed to be done. So what would be some examples of that? So brings on the Sefer Lamites Malachas. One may not knock on a door, for example, with one's fist in a rhythmatic fashion. They're gonna, let's say, with a beat, right? They're gonna bang in a certain type of a beat, making a musical sound. That is not supposed to be done. You have it a lot of times on a table. Like I mentioned in the past, on Shabbos, person, especially somebody who's into the drumming field, you don't realize it. Sing beautiful mirrors, and you start to bang a beat on the table. The table is not a musical instrument, but still one has to be careful not to bang a beat on the table. Now, how far does that go? We'll try and get a little bit into it. Like if I just tap the table, like what's going on? We're talking about right now to for argument's sake. To get the halacha straight, I bang a beat, two of my hands, and I'm playing a beat to the song on the table. That is not supposed to be done, even though the table, like we said, is not a musical instrument. It's not made for these type of things. The same thing would be, let's say somebody takes a fork and they start banging it against the bottle, right? You have a bottle and you take a fork or a knife, and you start banging a beat, these type of beats on a bottle, these type of things. Also one has to be careful not to do that, because even though the fork, you'll say, is not a musical instrument, the bottle's not a musical instrument, but I'm banging a beat, it's running into the Yisurim of Klei Shir, where somebody might come to fix a instrument. Even though one will say, well, it's far-fetched, this, that. But the bottom line is, there's certain things that Chazal said would be usher falling into this category. Okay, so again, like we said, we'll get into it next year, but just to finish off, if you take these type of items that are not made to make sounds, table, right, fork, bottle or the like, and you bang with it somehow whereby you just want to make a loud noise. We'll see just a couple of quick examples. No beat, no singing. There's nothing of musical inclination involved. There's nothing musical going on over here. So that is okay. The Mishnah Berurah explains to us that's okay. And Sefer Lamites Malachas just gives us some examples. And he says, for example, one may tap loudly against a glass or a bottle to silence an audience, right? You want to sometimes, everybody's talking, you want to just bang, this person's giving a drasha, let's say, they want to just bang on a glass, on a bottle. It's just to get everybody's attention. That's okay. So that's what he says. One may tap loudly against a glass or bottle to silence an audience, just not to do it in a beat style, in a rhythmic type of a fashion. He brings also, however, one may use a bottle. We said before not to bang on a bottle with a beat and these type of things. However, one may use a bottle, pot, or any other object that was not designed for producing sound. Right? These items are not designed for producing sound, as opposed to a whistle or a bell. But when it's just a bottle or something like that, they're allowed to bang on it to make sounds that are not musical or rhythmic. Okay. One more quick thing. He says, one rap on the door with a key to be heard inside. Again, the bottom line is, as long as the thing is not made to be making sound, Okay, so we're going to stop off over here, and we'll try and get a little bit more into it upcoming shiurim. Just to end off real quickly, bottom line is playing musical instruments is not allowed. Using instruments which make noise, even when it's not for music, is not allowed. Also, playing a beat, tapping in a musical way on items, even they're not made to make music, is not allowed. But when you're banging on items like tables, bottles, or whatever, not for a musical purpose, but just to get the crowd, get the audience, get somebody's attention or the like, so those cases would be allowed as long as it's not a item that produces sound. Thank you for listening. Atzlach and bracha kol tov.